Awesome. Welcome everyone to the Coalition on Homelessness's January general membership meeting. It's a new year and we are excited for all that is going to bring us. It's going to be a big year this year for everyone. Um, so we are going to get started. And just some quick notes before we do. This meeting is being recorded. If folks do not wish to be on the recording, you can choose not to unmute yourself and speak. That's just if you unmute yourself and speak, you'll become part of the recording. Otherwise, if you have your camera on, but you don't speak, you won't be on the recording. So that is up to you. We'd love to see people's faces if that is comfy for you today. We are first going to do a little special thank you to one of our colleagues from Burien. Then I'll talk a little bit about the legislative session, which is in full swing already. And our coalition priorities will have 3 opportunities for folks to take action today, which is very exciting. We will welcome a very special guest, our newest Seattle City Council member, Councilmember Alexis Mercedes Rank, who represents all of Seattle, to introduce herself to this group. And then we'll hear from our friends at the Financial Empowerment Network about some really excellent resources that group is offering for the community. And then we'll have some important announcements from us and then time for important announcements from you. So if you have anything that you would like to share as an announcement, please have that sort of in the back of your mind for the rest of this meeting. Okay, I think the only other thing I'd like to say before we move to our mission, vision, and values is this meeting and all of our other general membership meetings are on the coalition's YouTube page. We put our meetings on there, we put our trainings on there. There's a huge wealth of information on our YouTube page, so please feel welcome to check us out there and share it with folks if you think it is a useful resource. And if I could have one of my colleagues grab that link from and share it in the chat, that would be great. Okay. One final note, closed captioning is available for this meeting. So if that is helpful to you, it is available. And if I could have our next slide, please. Awesome. One thing that we like to do for these general membership meetings is to invite one of you lovely folks that is joining us today to read our mission, vision, and values. And I think we have someone pre-queued up for today. Colleen is here. Colleen, do you want to read our mission, vision, and values?
Sure. I don't see my camera on. Is it on?
Yeah, we have your camera on. Your name says that your name is Roger, but I'm
Roger.
pretty sure that's not true.
I'm using his computer since I had to turn mine in yesterday.
Oh, no worries. Go ahead, please.
So thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it. The mission is beautiful. We mobilize our community to challenge systemic causes of homelessness and advocate for housing justice. Our vision: a region that acts on a shared sense of responsibility to ensure that everyone has a home. And our values are equity, justice, and collective action.
Thank you so much, Colleen. If I could have one of my colleagues take down the slides. Colleen is our lovely person who we are thanking today. It's part of the coalition's culture to publicly thank folks that have really gone above and beyond and have contributed in incredible ways to our community here in King County. And so it's my pleasure to have helped strong arm Colleen into being here today to let us thank you. Colleen is a recently retired human services provider in the city of Burien. Human services providers are they just do incredible work, and they're often sort of behind the scenes, and especially, are especially important to take care of people when cities enact laws that are cruel and harmful to the folks that need them the most. So Colleen has really done some incredible work in Burien. She's been working with us for a long time, and we just really would like to invite folks to say thank you. If anybody would like to, join in and say something to thank Colleen, you're invited. And I'll pass it to Jody.
Thanks, Hallie. And yeah, I will just add the human services folks across all of our, cities, local cities within King County. They're the ones that are helping to make sure, the money's flowing in, so your programs work. They're those behind the scenes folks that really make sure everything is working and working well, and all the different pieces are connected and working well with each other. And I just have to say that, Colleen has been a really beautiful colleague all the way back. I mean, for long before I was at Healthcare for the Homeless, but when I was at Healthcare for the Homeless, long before the pandemic, and we would have to bring sort of the city of Seattle and the King County and all of the different jurisdictions together to figure out severe weather. Like, Colleen was just this beautiful, beautiful colleague working really hard in South King County, and Burien being one of the main cities in South King County that routinely stands up severe weather shelters. And so Colleen, just thank you for your steadfast work. We know you are the person that knows a lot of the folks that are experiencing homelessness in Burien. As a Burien resident and homeowner here, I have really appreciated all the work that you've done to sort of bring best practice to the city of Burien, and that we can care for all of our neighbors here. So thank you so much. We really appreciate all your hard work. We wish you the best of luck in whatever your next adventure may be. If you are welcome to take a minute here to say a few words, or you can politely decline, your choice, but I'll hand it to you.
Thanks so much, Jody and Hallie. I really appreciate your kind words. And all the support that the coalition has provided. As you all know better than me, this work is hard, and it's hard sometimes to get cities to address the needs and to really think about ways that we can do that in collaborative and in just ways. And so when I think back about the accomplishments that we've had and the challenges that we've had, it's really comes down to the partners that are out there doing the work, that are all members of your coalition. Standing up to severe weather shelter means a lot of volunteers and a church wanting to do it. It means standing up when the voices in the community that are the loudest are not representative of the people that are in need. And so I'm just super proud to work with people that want to find solutions, and that's what I want to continue to do at some point. It just wasn't at the city. And so I just am really grateful to all of you for the hard work and for being the voice of people that need us the most. And I'm proud to know many folks in my community that are experiencing homelessness, and I'm proud of the folks that we were recently able to get housed at the Bloomside, and how well they're doing. So I know there's a path forward, and I just hope that everybody continues to link arms and to try to make try to make this happen for people. You know, everyone deserves a home.
Thank you, Colleen, so much. We couldn't have said it better. Feel welcome everyone to give Colleen a little round of applause, your favorite emoji. Let's send her some love. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for
And
having
with
me.
that, yeah, thank you so much. And with that sort of very positive, hopeful message, we're going to dive right into our legislative advocacy portion of the day. So I know some folks here joined me yesterday for our first legislative advocacy power half hour. This is I think it's new. We sort of did it a little bit last year, but not so much. We are hosting a series of half-hour, quick and dirty lunchtime meetings from 12 to 12:30 on the first Wednesday of the month from here on out throughout the end of the legislative session to give folks an opportunity to learn, what is the latest that's going on in the Washington state legislative session? How can I be an effective advocate? And for us to all take action together. It was really fun yesterday. I'm really glad to folks who were able to join. And if I could have one of my colleagues drop our registration links for the next month and the following sessions into the chat, that would be awesome. We would love for folks to join us. So with that, I'm going to talk a little bit about sort of where we're at in the legislative session and some of our priorities that we have. And we have a lot of priorities for this legislative session. So I'm just going to highlight a few of them. And then you can find our full list on our website. I can have one of my colleagues drop the link to our legislative advocacy portion of our website. That would be awesome. So one issue that is live right now, that is a sort of super hot topic in this year's legislative session, is rent stabilization. I see we've got Dua Rahima from the Housing Alliance here today. The Housing Alliance is really leading on this particular issue. And what this bill would do is it would limit the amount that landlords can increase rent to 7% a year. And it would also provide some other legal protections for tenants. So we are strongly supporting this bill. We know that when people have their rents increased by, huge amounts year over year over year over year, they can't afford it anymore, and that helps contribute to homelessness. So awesome. Thank you so much, Rahima. We invite people to sign in pro on this Senate bill. You may have seen invitations to sign in pro for the companion House bill earlier this week. There were something like 4,000 people who signed in pro for the House bill, which is awesome. And what it means to sign in pro is you add your name to a public list of supporters for bill. So if you click the link that Rahima put in the chat, it'll take you to a page where you can put in your information and state your position as pro for this bill. Just a couple quick notes as folks are doing that. It's important to always use your personal email address, not your work email address. And also, it is not required to put an address. So if you don't want your address as part of public record, you don't have to put it there. You just have to put the required fields, which I think are city, zip code, and phone number. So we invite folks to sign in pro. That is a great and super, super easy and fast way to show massive support for bills like this one. That's really, really important. Yes, Rachel, it is Senate Bill 5222. Awesome. So that is a really high priority for us this year. One other really high priority is a bill that has not yet been dropped. We are expecting it to be dropped very soon from Representative Mia Gregerson. This is something that we've sort of like brought up in a few membership meetings of like, this bill is coming, this bill is coming. And now we can finally talk a little bit more about, the meat of what this bill is and why we're supporting it. So I want to just put a caveat on like the bill hasn't been dropped yet. Things are still sort of in process, but all things indicate that we're getting close to that point. So Representative Gregerson is working on a bill that would provide some guidance to local governments around what kind of laws they can pass that govern public spaces. So that's sounds sort of technical and funny. So I'll try and explain it as best I can. So right now, there's no state guidance on the kinds of laws that local governments can make to regulate how people use public spaces. So local governments can essentially do whatever they want, so far as they don't infringe on, the protections for people that exist in the state constitution. This leaves the door open for local governments, so that means cities and towns and counties, to pass banishment ordinances and other laws that are really counterproductive, cruel, and unreasonable as far as how they treat people experiencing homelessness. So the bill that Representative Gregerson is working on would provide more state guidance to make sure that these bills are objectively reasonable, including how they affect people experiencing homelessness. So the way that I think about it is it sort of like sets a floor where there currently is no floor, that these laws that cities make have to at least be reasonable. And I'm sure folks have a lot of questions. I'll drop my email in the chat if folks want to reach out with questions about specifics of the bill. This is just to give you a little preview of something that we might be asking you to take action on as early as this weekend. So with that, I would invite people to sign up for our action alerts if you have not already. If you are on our list, you would have received an email from me last weekend and inviting you to sign in pro for rent stabilization, the House bill version. And if you're not sure, there's no harm in signing up again. So please feel welcome to sign up for our action alerts. That is absolutely the best way to stay in touch with us through the legislative session. It's basically my whole job during the legislative session to make it super, super easy and accessible, for folks to take action. I also want to highlight a couple other bills, sort of going back to that bill that Representative Gregerson is going to be proposing. It's really closely connected to two other bills that are already live in the legislature. So we sort of are seeing them as a little bit of like a 3-bill package deal. One of those other bills comes from Rep. Peterson, which would make it harder for local governments to block new shelter or permanent supportive housing in their jurisdictions. One thing that has happened in King County in the past few years is cities have enacted really strict either zoning laws or certain processes that projects have to go through, or other sort of like unnecessary hurdles in order to block the development of PSH, shelter, affordable housing, etc. And this bill would make it more difficult for cities to do that. And so it would make it easier to cite those various different kinds of projects and increase housing in our communities. The second bill in this sort of, or I guess the third bill in this trio comes from Rep. Bateman. And that one would give give the state more oversight over cities to make sure that they're actually planning for enough affordable housing in their jurisdiction. So these things are all really important because we know we don't have enough affordable housing, shelter, PSH, or other forms of housing in the great majority of our communities across the entire state. And so these bills together would remove barriers to building more of that and also ensure that in the meantime, our laws that are governing people who have to live in public spaces are at least reasonable. So that's sort of how we're looking at this constellation of bills. Those are all, you can read more about those, of course, in our legislative priorities on our website. And you will be hearing from yours truly throughout the legislative session about those bills. So I'm gonna stop there and see if anybody has any questions or things that they'd like to add. And then I have a couple actions that I'll invite people to take.
Well, while people are maybe typing or thinking, formulating their question, I just want to highlight something that's happening in the chat. We had somebody, say that they read the bill last night and their, chance to testify remotely. And Danielle, our beautiful colleague, our new comms lead, threw out the opportunity, which we love to highlight, which is if you're needing a little extra support for either crafting, oral online testimony or written testimony, we're here to help. So I just wanted to highlight that was happening in the chat because it's available to you all.
Thank you, Jody. That's awesome. And Danielle has done just an incredible job of helping us sort of shape our messaging and like how we talk about bills like these. So she is an awesome, awesome person to talk to help you craft your testimony. Rachel, yeah, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you just fine.
That was actually me that read the bill. I was just reading a whole bunch of bills. I've been getting more getting myself in learning how to read bills, getting myself more in depth with knowledge with that. But I've been looking at the website and what meetings are on and who's how to testify. So that was me that wanted to know. I would love to because I would love to testify remotely. In support of House Bill 5222. So yeah, I would love to collaborate with you guys. If you have anything you would like to add, I could email you guys, and then or I can give me my number and the email in the chat, so I could push this bill, support this bill and testify.
Thank you, Rachel, so much. That is so awesome to hear. Yes, if you email us at that contact@homelessinfo.org, we are more than happy to share information about that. One gift that COVID gave us is that we can testify remotely in Olympia, which is awesome because you don't have to go to Olympia and wait forever and ever and ever. I gave my first testimony of the legislative session on Monday. And it's like a very easy, straightforward process. You just hang out on Zoom for a while, and then they summon you to be a panelist, and then you say your piece, and then you go back. So if anybody is interested in either giving testimony in person or remotely and needs support or has questions, please feel free to reach out. Okay, let me catch up with the chat a little bit. Oh, Rachel, awesome. It was fun. That makes me so happy to hear. I want to invite folks to take action today on 3 different things. We've already got our sign in pro for rent stabilization. Thank you, Rahima. I also want to share 2 other actions that you can take right now in this meeting. And apologies for the giant URLs. It's kind of terrible to look at, but there is the Sign-in Pro for rent stabilization. There's an action from the Housing Alliance that includes many of our shared priorities, inviting you to send a letter to your lawmakers. And there is also an action alert from our colleagues at the Statewide Poverty Action Network, or SPAN. This one is focused on revenue, which is something that I haven't talked a lot about in this meeting. So one kind of dark cloud looming over the legislative session this year is that there's a big old budget deficit, which means that it's going to be a big fight to just maintain our current level of services and prevent things like shelter from closing statewide. So this action alert on revenue really highlights the need to generate more progressive revenue, which means that it taxes people that can afford it more than people who can't, in order to fill those gaps so that we don't have an austerity budget with cuts to things that we know are essential to our communities. So I'd invite folks to take those actions right here, right now. Give us an emoji, a thumbs up, a heart. If you've done one of these or more of them, we love to see that. This is something that's really important to our culture at the Coalition, as we always like to give people an opportunity to take action and speak up in our general membership meetings. Awesome. Thank you, Durahima and Rose and Karina. Thank you so much. And I'm just catching up with the chat a little bit. It looks like we've got a highlight on Senate Bill 5082 from Dominic. Dominic, do you want to unmute yourself and talk a little bit more about that? That's a really important one.
Yeah, like I mentioned, I'm not sure of the likelihood because of the budget that you just mentioned being in peril. But yeah, that is one, the need for a housing voucher. Currently, the Fostering Youth to Independence federal voucher requires youth and or young adults in extended foster care to exit state care in order to receive housing. And that just takes away a lot of very important supports in their life for people who do not have support systems in place. And yeah, that's one of the ones that they're highlighting. Testimony was on Monday. So the Sign-in Pro has, I believe, passed. But the next action is, I believe, on the 22nd of January. And I can try to find links for that.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dominic, for sharing that. We always love to lift up opportunities to take action from Mockingbird. This one is definitely on our support list, and it is on our radar. So thank you so much for highlighting that. Okay, I think that does it for the legislative session. Yeah.
Dua Rahima has to head out in about 15 minutes, but would love to share about HAD.
Yes, please go ahead. I'm sorry I didn't see that.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'm Dua Rahima Hunter. I work with Washington Low Income Housing Alliance, and I am their statewide organizer for this program, Resident Action Project. So we're planning Housing and Homeless Advocacy Day. How many of y'all been there to HAD before? I remember when I first became a case manager, like about 10, 15 years ago, the first time I went was with skits, right? I learned all my, I stand on the back of Allison and Laura and Linda Miser and Bob and all them, Bill, and all them are getting my advocacy and organizing skills from and some of the case management because they made me do it, right? They pulled me into it. But we're doing Housing and Homeless Advocacy Day this year. Is going to be on Friday, March 14th up in Olympia. I will drop the sign-in link if you would like to come. It will start at 10 and end around 4. You'll be able to talk to your elected officials. So the trainings that they're offering will be great for you to be able to speak to your elected official around the priorities that are happening. Last year, we had about 500 advocates, housing justice warriors from across the state, in Olympia, and it was really good to see that. We do a rally from 12 to 1, so Chief Seattle comes and give us an opening ceremony with prayer and drumming and things like that. We really got this couple of awesome artists that are going to share. We had a grant to get commissioned some art to go with art and organizing. So we have a artist named 410 Noodles who did a song called You Can't Let It Slide. You can find it on YouTube. It's our theme. And then we have a really great, often spoken word, Juana, and hopefully she'll be able to join us as well. We're hoping that both of them will be able to join us. And so instead of having to run around the campus to meet individual, your elected officials, we're trying to do joint meetings between the hours of 1 to 4, but they might be a little early. So that will be the day, a rally from 12 to 1, lunch, your lawmakers, but you get to be in space with me and so many awesome folks who care about folks in Washington State having safe and affordable housing. Thanks for letting me be here. Thanks for letting me share, and I will see you at your next meeting.
Thank you so much, Dorima. Wait, before you go, do you
Yes.
need people to be leads, LD
Yes, we
leads?
also, so if you fill out the form, we need people to be LD leads for your district. You can check that box if you have never done it. It's really simple. Poe, who is my coworker and my brother, is the advocacy organizer, and he is in charge of the legislative leads. So you'll get a training, super simple. It's kind of like doing the work that you're already doing there with people in your area. We're also looking for volunteers for certain things, like Care Bears, which is like helping staff, making sure that we're okay, stopping to take drinks for water, because when you're doing something, you forget to do the simple things of taking care of yourself. Set up cleanup, greeters and things like that. So yeah. And if you have accessible needs or interpretation kids, it's gonna be a kid-friendly event. So if you have children, we really want children there. We want to teach them how to use their voice young, right? And let them speak, because sometimes they need to hear how everything is impacting our kids, right? So yeah. And if you have questions, my number's there. And I will be able to answer them. If not, then Teresa will. And we do have a little bit of money for transportation grants. We don't provide transportation, but we do have a page that is for people who want to carpool or looking for a ride. And we do have a small funding for transportation grants. If you're bringing your participants and you're carpooling or something like that, it might need gas.
Thank you so much, Dorima. The Coalition on Homelessness every year, well, not every year, we had a break during the pandemic, but we started it again last year and we're doing it again this year. We have our Advocacy Express bus that we all get on at like 7 o'clock in the morning, and we make our way together down to Olympia. So we want to definitely
But you
load
don't
up
have to
that
get up
bus.
that early this time. We're not starting
Oh,
early.
that's
We're
right. I
starting at
forgot.
10. 10, you can come pick up
Wonderful.
your materials. That's time to check in and pick in your materials. So there will be no morning program. We're really just focusing on the rally, pumping everybody up, and you speaking to your elected officials and
Excellent.
being a
That makes me
space.
happy. Um, but yeah, we definitely want to load up the bus with folks who are working at agencies providing services to people experiencing homelessness, and the folks that they work with, who are guests of those services or residents in affordable housing. We definitely want to prioritize folks that need our bus to get there. So if that is of interest to you, or the folks that you work with, please definitely reach out to us. Thank you so much, Dorima.
Have a good one. And
Thanks.
thanks for all the work that everyone is doing.
Thank you so much. Awesome. And with that, we are right on time today, which rarely happens, and it makes me happy when it does. It is my pleasure to introduce our newest Seattle City Council member, Councilmember Alexis Mercedes Ring. to share with us a few words and introduce herself.
Gosh, good morning, everybody. Thank you for the kind introduction, Hallie, and really excited to be here. I hope you don't mind. I'm calling in from my apartment today, and you can see my cat tree. And if we're lucky, you might be able, actually, the cat is in there if you can see her little face. My name is Alexis. I she, her pronouns, and I am your newest Seattle City Council member representing citywide. So you all may know Seattle has 7 districts, but we also have 2 at-large positions on City Council, and I represent one of them, the lovely office of Position 8. My office is trying to get stood up as quickly as possible, and I think we've officially done it. We have fully hired a team. I can't wait for you all to meet them. We've pulled together an amazing group of folks, both coming from community and have a lot of policy expertise in a wide variety of areas. We have Tim Lennon, who comes from the world of arts and culture. If folks are familiar with Langston Seattle, he used to be the executive director at Langston, as well as working on the Vera project. We have Rachel Alger, who will be our policy director. She comes from Suzanne Delbene's office and has a lot of experience working in human services. We also brought in Penny Tran, who comes from Office of Emergency Management, but also worked as the community engagement manager for Friends for Little Saigon. And then Kaden Cook, who is a recent grad of the UW and will be working on land use matters and supporting our comp plan process. But just a little bit about me for folks I haven't met. I know a number of folks on the call because I come from the world of working on homelessness and human services. I've often described that as actually my jam. That's where I've spent most of my career and where I consider myself most an expert in. But of course, really excited to be partnering with the coalition to make sure that we have a strong connection. So in this role on City Council, I'm hearing directly from you all about what we should be pushing for, advocating for, and what changes need to urgently happen within the city of Seattle. Our office, so this year, we are going to be actually chairing the City Light Sustainability and Arts and Culture Committee, but we have positions on other incredible committees doing important work from transportation. We'll be working on the comprehensive plan, so really our plan to really determine what kind of housing we'll build across the city and where we can build housing. But I also have a position on the Housing and Human Services Committee this year. We're going to be focused on a number of things. You know, I ran on a platform of really pushing for fully investing in our communities. I've always stood by the fact that we should be investing a lot more into health and human services in order to fully meet the needs of our communities. I've been vocal already on the dais about the dire need to address pay equity for human services workers. We recently got a report from the Office of Housing, an update on some of those efforts. But we also know that there is a tremendous need for more housing in our community and housing across the board, especially when we're looking at housing for low income to no income folks within our region. And so those are a little bit about my priorities and orientation as I step into this role. We intend to have a strong connection with the coalition and hope you can view us as a resource. Come by, say hi. We'd love to open up our office to as many folks as possible. We want to make sure that we are really living up and making sure that this is the people's office. And so happy to set up visits as well and just make sure we have an open line of communication. That's just a little bit of a spiel. I'm happy to take questions too with the time that we have together this morning. But with that, I'll turn it back over to Hallie if she wants to facilitate any time for questions.
Thank you so much, Councilmember. Are there any questions for Councilmember Rink? You're getting some love for you and love for your cats in the chat.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, folks are thinking, I'll just add that the coalition has been super involved in the Health and Human Services Committee and will continue to be involved in that committee. There's a lot of very important policies that affect people experiencing homelessness that go through that committee. There's been a lot of legislation that we've opposed that has gone through that committee in this past year. For folks who have been tuned in with us, the soap and soda legislation sort of originated in that committee, as well as some other legislation that we have not supported. So we keep a close eye on that committee, and we are very happy to support, of course, positive legislation that comes through that that works to positively impact the health and human services in the city of Seattle. And we keep an eye out for legislation that is harmful to folks experiencing homelessness. Thank you. Rachel, go ahead.
I don't really have any questions for Councilmember Ring. I just want to say thank you so much for being a tireless advocate for those who are needing housing the most. And I did not get to make it the get out the vote kickoff event for Proposition 1A, but I have been door knocking and doing a lot of work for Proposition 1A. So I just want to say thank you so much. And it was nice meeting you at the your swearing ceremony. I don't know if you remember me, but it was great to
I did, right.
yes, it was so much fun. And thank you so much. And I definitely will be contacting you to see how I can be of use to fight homelessness and also talk about mental health as well. So thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you, Rachel. Any other questions that folks want to bring up?
We're working on.
Right. Councilmember Rink, thank you so much for joining us. Is there anything else you'd like to share, some parting wisdom before?
Oh, yeah. I'm putting my official office email in the chat. Please reach out with questions, concerns. Our team is working on making sure we are very responsive to anything that comes through. But more than that, we know that this is also going to be a tremendously challenging year. And I don't want to make light of the fact that we're going to have a change in presidential administrations that represents some very serious losses to in federal funding to programs people know, love, and in many cases depend on. It's going to be our connection and sharing of information and problem solving together that will help us weather that time. And you all can count on my office to be arriving in those conversations ready to problem solve and fight. So we are truly in this together. And I just am thankful to the coalition and you all for arriving to show up and fight for our most vulnerable community members. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Councilmember, for highlighting that. We know that with a new incoming Trump administration, there will be a whole host of challenges that we will have to address together as a community, including potential loss of funding, including serious threats to immigrants and refugees in our community, and anything under the sun. So know that we're in it together. We've got our backs, and the coalition will be here as always to advocate for the policies that we need as a community. Thank you so much, Councilmember Rigg, for joining us. You are, of course, welcome to stick around if you'd like. You and your team are always welcome in these meetings. Thank you for joining us. I do want to, thanks. I want to also just put a bug out for folks while we're thinking about, essentially bracing ourselves for an incoming Trump administration, which begins on Monday. We are planning a training with the Northwest Immigrants' Rights Project to help service providers prepare for what to do if ICE comes to your site. And what are your rights? What are the rights of people experiencing homelessness? What are the rights of immigrants and refugees? And how should you respond if you're in that situation? So Jody, do you mind dropping the date for that in the chat? And we'll be keeping folks updated as it gets closer. Okay, I think with that, we are going to welcome our next guest, Maya Saez Flores from the Financial Empowerment Network, is joining us today to share some information about how communities and folks that have been traditionally underserved by banks and financial institutions can access supports. So the Financial Empowerment Network helps to create safe, affordable bank accounts for folks that don't have overdraft fees or minimum balances or predatory practices. And they're here to share some information about their monthly financial coaching meetings and potential partnership opportunities for hosting mobile banking clinics. This is not an issue that we like always have in the forefront of our minds as advocates, but it is so, so, so important. And I'm really glad to have Maya here to share some information with us today. So Maya, please take it away. Oh, you're muted, Maya.
Thank you so much. I was wondering if I could share my screen. I do have a PowerPoint available. If not, I can also just talk about then. Yeah.
Let me make you a co-host. And did that do the trick?
Let's see. Yes, it did. Perfect.
Okay,
Let me go
super.
ahead and get my presentation ready. And thank you guys so much for having me here. I'm really excited to be able to speak about this with you all. So let me just go ahead and get this set up. Okay. Sorry, 1 second. I'm trying to get the presentation view ready.
That looks good.
Perfect. Okay, perfect. All right, you guys are able to see it? Perfect. All right. Hello, my name is Maya Saez Flores. I work with the Financial Empowerment Network. I was hired about a year ago now as the King County Engagement Manager. So my experience actually comes from just like lived experience and experience with working with grassroots organizations when I lived back in Miami. So I come from an undocumented background. I have lived through houselessness and homelessness and have been able to overcome through, honestly, the assistance of nonprofit organizations and networks. And so working with the Financial Empowerment Network has been incredibly helpful for me and for the people that I work with. So I just wanted to start off with that, but I'll go ahead and give you an introduction to what the Financial Empowerment Network is. So FEN is a nonprofit focused on the financial well-being for all Washingtonians. And so we do this through partnerships across different sectors. So through financial institutions, nonprofit organizations, community organizations, to help access affordable and effective services and resources. So FEN ourselves, we don't provide the direct services, but what we do is we try to help build capacity for the people that are doing this direct service work, so that are on the ground. So we do this through multiple ways, but we believe that our impact kind of ripples through the communities, through these providers, through our workshops, through the different methods that we do this. So I'll go ahead and start explaining that. So our initiatives, we do this through 3 different initiatives. So we do this through financial empowerment integration, which is our workshops. We do trainings and also have access to like on-demand resources. We also do this by being the lead of the Washington Asset Building Coalition, overseeing all of the asset building coalitions within Washington State, and then also being the lead of the Seattle King County Asset Building Coalition. And we are also the lead organization for Bank on Washington, which is what I really want to get into the weeds about. So we do, with our financial empowerment integration, we offer free virtual professional development workshops for our providers. Our most recent one that just happened, actually just happened yesterday. We held it with the CFPB. It was a 2-day training, and we focused on resources for people reentering from being justice impacted, so reentering from incarceration. Our next workshop is going to be in February. The working title is clear as mud. It's going to be about taxes, ITINs, and free file options. And there'll be more information about that coming up. So check out our website here, which you can do on the QR code.
So these are some of the past workshops that we've done, and most of our workshops are held on our website. So if you guys want to watch these workshops and get more trainings on these specific topics, like they're all available on our website. It's a great resource. We also have the Washington Financial Coaching Network. So we host it every fourth Wednesday of the month. This one is more of like an informal gathering to network and share resources and tools. So I've discussed with many financial counselors and coaches around, Washington State and Seattle King County, and something we've heard quite often, it can be kind of lonely working within this specific field, just because typically you're the only person doing it within your organization, and it's hard to reach out to other people. So we're trying to connect everyone who works within this sector to be able to talk, to share resources, to build capacity and network. So it's a great resource, and it's welcome and free to anyone who wants to come. And then we also have a financial wellness resource and website. So this is a website that has all of our partner organizations and all of the vetted resources that we have found for financial wellness. So we also have technical assistance and training for individual providers as well. So if you're interested in that, please reach out. So I'll start getting into the Washington Asset Building Coalition right now. So we are the Washington Asset Building Coalition. We provide support to the network of asset building coalitions across the state. If you're not connected to them within King County, you're in luck, because I am actually the lead of the King County Asset Building Coalition, which we are now calling the King County Financial Empowerment Network. We've been working to launch our King County resources website. So here we're having all of the resources that are King County specific that involve financial wellness. So we have resources for housing, for taxes. We have resources for immigrants and refugees, for different Native communities that reside here. So we're working on that consistently. It's launched now, and if you want to be involved, so have your organization on there, please feel free to reach out to me. I'll drop my email in the chat after the presentation. But so there's that, and then we're also doing one of our initiatives with the Seattle King County Asset Building Coalition, which is now called KC-FEN. It's Bank on Seattle King County, which is what I really wanted to talk about. I know I'm going pretty fast, but I'm trying to get to where I really want to go, which is the banking aspect. So we are actually going to have our first KC-FEN coalition meeting in March. You can sign up for our newsletter to stay updated, because we don't have the date set just yet. But anyways, moving on, now I'm going to get to the Bank On part, because this is what I really wanted to talk about. So Bank On, has anyone here heard about Bank On before? Just yes or no? No? Okay. So Bank On is an initiative that was created in Washington, D.C. by the CFE Fund. So I'm going to cover this part right now, just Bank On Washington, and then get a little bit more into what Bank On overall is. But so we're the lead on Bank On Washington and Seattle King County. Bank On was developed specifically as an initiative, as a national initiative, to help meet the needs of folks who are and underbanked and get them connected to safe, affordable, and functional accounts. So what this means is that the CFE Fund created a set of national standards to hold financial institutions accountable, right? We know that in the past, financial institutions haven't had the, well, let's see how I can phrase this. We all know we've had some issues within the banking industry, within the banking sector throughout the past however many years. So we know that's been an issue a long time, and they've been aware of this as well. So through Bank On Washington, what we do is we work with these financial institutions to offer these Bank On certified accounts and other low barrier financial services. So this means like loans, mortgages, other things like that, for services that community members need, and to ensure that community members are aware that these low-cost financial products and services exist. A lot of times people don't even know about these Bank On accounts, because guess what? Banks like to keep this information hidden. So the responsibility of Bank On Washington, Bank On Seattle King County, is to really get that word spread out, to get that word and that information that there are accounts that are safe, they're affordable, no overdraft fees in almost every single banking institution in this country now. And so I'll go a little bit more into that. But so We know that banking access matters. Lacking access to an account at a bank or a credit union can be very expensive, especially over a lifetime. So we know that on average, a person who is unbanked will spend $40,000 over their lifetime on financial services fees. And for me, I don't know about you guys, but $40,000 is a lot of money, and that is a lot of money that can make an impact on people's lives. So this is something that is incredibly important to do if they are able to. So I'm going to go ahead and talk about the Bank on National Account Standards specifically, because this is what goes into deciding what makes these accounts, you know, affordable and safe and efficient for consumers who need them the most. So they developed this, the CFE fund developed this certification for financial institutions by if they offer these specific type of accounts. So these accounts have to be created with consumers in mind to ensure that they are safe, they're affordable, they're functional. So they offer benefits to consumers who may have had limited or challenging history with banking. A lot of times they include features such as low opening deposit, low or no monthly fees, low or no minimum balance requirement, and my favorite feature, which is no overdraft charges. So there's about 450 Bank-On certified accounts offered nationwide, including 17 here in Washington State. The issue with Bank-On, though, if you're going to go and you're going to tell your clients, hey, especially if they don't have a bank account, hey, you know, you can get a bank account. There are safe and affordable accounts. They're called Bank-On accounts. Unfortunately, that is not how it works with Bank-On. Each institution's Bank-On certified account has a different name. I have a slide here that provides these names with the institutions that are currently working with Bank-On, so that you'll have that there with you. But yeah, so that I wouldn't recommend telling that to the people that you're serving because it's not going to be beneficial. A lot of financial institutions don't even train their bank tellers or the people that are at, you know, the banks themselves what Bank-On accounts are. So this is where we come in. We're trying to make sure that people understand and the communities understand that there are these accounts that are made for them. So I just wanted to put some statistics up here. These are fully banked, underbanked, and unbanked rates of 2023. So as we can see here, there's a good amount of underbanked and unbanked households. There's 19 million and 5.6 million households. This is in the United States overall. So this is a big population. I know a lot of times we don't tend to think about banking, but it is a big population that is underbanked. And remember, $40,000 can mean a lot to a person. So I did want to just break down how these underbanked and unbanked households typically use their money from the data that we have here. So you can see here how it will also affect the services and fees that they use. So if they use like prepaid cards, I mean, it doesn't say it here, but you get fees from when you use these sorts of things. So we're just trying to make them be able to hold on to their money. And so these are some of the top reasons why people have cited that they don't have a bank account. Personally, for me, it took me a while to get a bank account. I moved from Venezuela, being undocumented. We typically didn't trust banks in Venezuela, and trusting banks here, moving that cultural, you know, background into America, it was difficult for our family to want to get banked, to even trust banks. So these are all things that you have to think about when you're working with the people that you're working with, their cultural background, their situation. But here's just overall the statistics that we have for why some people don't have bank accounts. So with Bank-On, we also hold Bank-On workshops. We have these online, but we also hold our Bank-On forum every year. I'll talk about that a little bit later, but I just want to discuss that we do have these resources online so that you guys can see it. So we have workshops on how you can build these relationships with financial institutions as a nonprofit organization or community member. We also have one specifically about like justice impacted and how to help them get banked. So we know a lot of times justice impacted people, when they're re-entering into society, may not have proper identification and how they can get bank accounts that way. So a lot of these bank accounts as well will accept other forms of identification. And so let me get to the bank account page. Here we go. So a lot of these bank accounts will open bank accounts without the traditional forms of identification. So some will accept ITIN, some will accept like prison ID cards. And so that you'll have to actually look into the specific bank itself, because they don't just have that information out there. Like you'll have to go and do a deep dive. Some of the places that I typically recommend, I don't want to say one bank over another, but credit unions are a great place to start. And credit unions is where we do a lot of our work. Currently, I'm the Bank Bond Seattle-King County lead, and I've created an initiative to partner up with organizations. One organization that we're currently doing this with is Weld Seattle, and we've organized with them to do a sort of like mobile bank account setup with their programming that they currently have. So Weld is an organization that helps systems impacted people get back on their feet with housing, employment, and economic and financial literacy courses. So we've partnered with them during their Weld months to be able to get currently we're working with Express Credit Union, but Express Credit Union to go out there and to help these people set up bank accounts. And so far, I believe we've already gotten 15 bank accounts set up. They've come in for different services. And so it's really great seeing people be able to do this and know that they can do this and be uplifted to, because sometimes there's a lot of stigma when it comes around, being formally or being justice impacted or being undocumented. So we want to have this sort of community where people feel empowered to be able to go to these institutions as well. So that's what we do here at Bank On. We hold workshops. We try to get the word out there that there are these bank accounts, because I know this is sometimes hard to come by. So there is a resource here where you can see the national standards. You can also see all of the bank accounts that are available in Washington State. And if you need to if you need to open any online, you're able to do so there as well. And if you want to stay in touch, please feel free to follow us. We're on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. And my email is maya@fen1.org. And like I said, I'll drop it in the chat. But really what I'm looking for is since I've started working here, I've created this this network of financial institutions who are hungry to get involved in this work, because this is what their initiatives are trying to state, right? So we're trying to connect people with nonprofit organizations, financial institutions, get this working. So please, if you want any sort of partnership or integration work with financial institutions, please feel free to reach out to me, and I could get that started. But yeah, thank you so much for all your time. And if you have any questions, please feel free. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, Maya, so much. That is really an incredible collection of resources to have all in one place, as sort of a clearinghouse for how folks can figure out how to help your clients who are unbanked if they choose to get a bank account. Are there any questions for Maya? And as folks are thinking, I might just ask one. Can you talk a little bit about are there any restrictions on who can get a Bank On account? Do you have to be a citizen? Do you have to have income? How does it work?
So it depends on the bank. Unfortunately, with the national standards, it's kind of like a guideline, but the banks really decide what they want to do. So I typically will say, if you are, let's say, how I was an undocumented person who I have family who has also a criminal history. So we, didn't have documentation and whatever. There are banks that will take ITINs. There are banks that will take other forms of identification that aren't a passport or a social security number. Typically, what I've heard, it is ITINs. If you're undocumented and you want to get a bank account, you will need to get an ITIN. But with places I believe Express Credit Union, and I don't want to be plugging in Express, I'm not sponsored by Express. I just really love the work that they do. But I believe that they also are able to help you apply for the ITIN there. So they do, they do the work. And at least with Express, they're really, really involved with the community, and it's very community based. So it depends on the institution. I always say, if you're without documentation or without like I don't want to say normal forms of documentation, but the overall general forms that are typically used. Credit unions are always a great place to start. ITINs typically work if you've been incarcerated before. Sometimes also your prison ID will work as well. But yeah, so those are what I know about
Awesome.
the requirements so far, but just it depends on the institution, which is why I'm like, check out that one page we have, because you have to check to see what they will allow. But credit unions are always usually a safe bet. Yeah.
Super. Thank you so much, Maya. Any other questions?
Maya, could you maybe just explain a little bit more what underbanked means?
So underbanked means just they are not utilizing the banking services fully. To be honest, the underbanked term for me, I don't necessarily use it that much. I use unbanked because most of the time when people are underbanked, they're just fully unbanked. So like underbanked meaning they don't fully utilize like the financial institution services. I mean, I could consider myself like underbanked because I don't use all of the services that are provided with my own bank there. Or even they have access to banking, but they don't have like a savings account or a checkings account. They only have a credit card or something like that, that can be considered underbanked. But yeah, so
Super. Thank
I
you.
typically like to use unbanked more, but we do use it within our phrasing. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Any other questions from folks? Awesome. Maya, thank you so much. Do you mind dropping an email or contact for you in the chat if folks have questions later and want to reach out? That would be lovely. Thank you so much for joining us today. Awesome. Thanks, Maya.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. And with that, it is now time for me to get back to my notes. Time for us to share some announcements from us as a coalition, including an announcement from Miss Jody. So I'm going to hand it over to her.
Hey, folks. I'm just going to cut to the chase. I have made a really hard and deeply personal decision to take a year off of employment. So I will be leaving my position at the coalition at the end of April. I think some folks that I've done some work with have known that I've had some family issues and health issues related to my family that I've been navigating for the past year or so. And it's related to that I have decided I really need to take a year off to focus on the health of my family. In some ways, this is like, there's no other choice because it's what my family needs. And in other ways, this has been the hardest decision I've had to make, professionally at least. So I have really conflicted feelings about this. Like I'm truly heartened, knowing that this incredible coalition staff and team, as small and as mighty as we are going to be continuing on this incredible work with you all in true coalition. But, it's with a deep sense of grief and sadness that I really do need to step away. And I expect to find myself, back amongst you in the future in some form. I don't know what that will look like. But with this news comes a really incredible and wonderful opportunity for someone to join this team as a senior program manager. So we are posting my position that is open today. It's on our employment page. I think somebody, Hallie or Danielle, is going to drop that into the link into the chat here. And then we're going to be posting it, kind of in our usual places and sharing it out widely. So please, please, please share this as far and wide. We don't like to poach from our member organizations, but if you or someone you know might be a really good fit for this position, we want to talk with you or that person. So It's a priority deadline to apply by, I think we said midnight on February 14th. And we do have a preferred start date of April 7th, just so that there can be overlap with this new person coming in and myself before I leave. It's a really awesome position. You will be in a place to hold a lot of the programming that the coalition does. So our meetings, our trainings, our voter registration, making that connection between a lot of the policy work that Hallie and Allison lead with, integrating that into our programming and our members and our community. Just thinking through the strategy of the coalition and how we support all of you out in the world doing this amazing work. It has been an incredible opportunity. And there are days when I'm like, I can't believe I'm walking away from this, but it is something that my family needs right now. So really encourage you all to take a look at that job description, encourage the people that you know would do this in an amazing way, and come join this incredible team doing incredible work. So thank you for hearing me out, and I'm going to turn it back to Hallie for some more member announcements. Thanks all.
Thank you, Jody. And this sucks for us, y'all, but Jody is not leaving right away. She is going to be here until April, right? Yeah. But it is a really good opportunity for another good person to join our team. So you're getting lots of love from this group, Jody, an invitation from Colleen, who is not Roger, to meet up for coffee in, in Burien. And we'll look forward to seeing who applies. And with that, it is time for some member announcements. We got one in our inbox. I don't think we have anybody from Youth Care here to share this announcement, but wanted to make sure that folks know that the Youth Care's Orion Center and their South Seattle Youth Center are merging. So beginning on January 20th, the Orion Center is adding some shelter services and is bumping up their operations to 7 days a week, including day and overnight hours. And they're closing the South Seattle Youth Center. So folks who are there will be transitioned over to the Orion Center. And until those full shelter services at the Orion Center start on January 20th, the South Seattle Youth Center will continue to operate as normal, with shelter and services 7 days a week, including during the day and overnight. So they wanted to make sure that folks know that none of their clients are going to lose access to shelter during this period, but that they are consolidating into Seattle. Oops, sorry, the computer is doing crazy stuff. So that's just a heads up for you all if you work with youth. That's just important to know those, the resources that are at your disposal. Are there any other announcements? Yeah, Karina, please go ahead.
Thank you. So anybody who's curious about safe parking, because it is kind of a niche service, and in the KCRHA plan, it's supposed to be expanding in Seattle. So hopefully you'll be seeing it more. We at Lake Washington UMC have been running safe parking in Kirkland for 14 years now. And we are doing another just webinar tonight, 6 to 8 p.m. Safe Parking 101, what it looks like for us, where we started, where we are now, and how it works. So if you've ever been curious, there's a link in the chat to sign up for that webinar.
Karina, thank you so much. Is that going to be recorded?
Yes, it is.
Wonderful. Thank you. That is an excellent resource. anything else that folks want to share as it impacts, service providers in our region? Karina, do you have another one, or is that's your old hand? Okay,
I clicked that, sorry.
no worries. Okay, hearing none, thank you all so much for joining us today. Our next
Oh, it looks
member.
like,
Oh, sorry. I
no,
have
it's
too much
okay.
going on.
It looks like Rachel has your hand up. Rachel, if you wanted to jump in.
That's probably one of the last meetings that we have before Proposition 1A is voted on. So I have the sign right here. If you're a Seattle voter, if you want to support affordable social housing, we've already passed the framework for this initiative a couple of years ago. But I don't know if this is okay to share here. I just want to get the vote out for Proposition 1A, and your ballots are due if you're a Seattle voter February the 11th.
Thank you for sharing that. The coalition has not yet taken an official position on this particular proposition, but we always support educating voters and knowing that your ballots will be mailed soon. There will be, it's kind of a weird way to do things. How it's going to look on your ballot is there's the language of the initiative, which relates to funding a social housing developer, and then it'll ask people to vote yes or no on that, and then there's a second part that asks people, if you voted yes, which option would you prefer, 1A or 1B? So we'll be sharing more voter education resources about that. Is important for folks in Seattle to know about.
Thank you so much. I just didn't know
Yeah.
make a quick announcement about that.
Yeah, thank you. Great. Well, thank you all so much for joining us today. We will have our next membership meeting in February, on February 20th, I believe. Same bad time, same bad channel. And we will see you then. Thank you so much. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Rachel, don't forget to email us.